Hello students, welcome to the lecture on motivation and leadership, and after this lecture we will be able to learn the following objectives. Understand the concept of motivation, describe the theories of motivation, discuss the concept of leadership, explain leadership and management. Let's start with motivation and leadership. Motivation represents those psychological processes that cause the arousal, direction and persistence of voluntary action that are goal-oriented. Motivation focuses on expectancies or people's expectation about whether they can affect performance outcomes and how closely the expected rewards are linked to performance. The foundation of employee motivation can be studied from two perspectives: the content theories of motivation, which focus on what motivates employees in organization, and the process theories of motivation, which focus on how employees in an organization can be motivated. Concept of motivation. Need for performance cycle. Although a few human activities occur without motivation, nearly all conscious behavior is motivated or caused. Management's job is to identify and activate employee motives towards task performance. General model of motivation. This model provides a framework for understanding the dynamic nature of the motivational process. The basic components of motivation are needs, desire and expectation, behavior, goals and feedback. Motivation and performance. Very often, motivation and performance are assumed to be one and same. This faulty assumption can lead to poor managerial decision. Challenges of general model of motivation. The first challenge in operating this model is that motives cannot be seen, they can only be inferred. A second challenge is the verifying and the dynamic nature of needs. At one given point of time, everyone has various needs, desires and expectations. These factors may keep changing over time. A third challenge involves considerable differences in the motivation of people and in the energy with which people respond to them. A lot of this energy also depends on the cultural background of the individual. Theories of motivation. Just like any other concept, in leadership, also a number of important theories have emerged. Each of it try to explain what motivation is all about. Some motivation theories that put a deep impact on business include monastic or economic theory of motivation. Monastic theory of motivation is based upon the notion that man is essentially economic. This theory seeks a single cause of behavior monetary expect of remuneration or reward. The hierarchy of needs theory. Maslow developed a theory of motivation based on human needs arranged in a particular order from the lower to the higher. The hierarchy of needs of motive suggested by Maslow is physiological needs. These are needs for food, thirst, shelter and the like. These are the basic needs of the organism and are essential for survival. These lie at the lowest level of the hierarchy of needs. Safety needs. Safety needs represent the second level in Maslow's needs hierarchy. These relate to protection against danger, threat and deprivation. These are very closely related to physiological needs. Both the needs seek continuation. Social needs. Next in order are the social needs. When physiological and safety needs are fairly satisfied, safety needs become powerful motivators. These needs are what Maslow calls the love and affection and belongingness need. Ego needs. Once physiological, safety and social needs are well satisfied, ego needs become more important to management and to the individual himself. These become powerful motivators only when all the three lower order needs are reasonably satisfied. Self-actualization needs. At the apex or Maslow's hierarchy is a need to self-actualization, or what are viewed as the needs for fulfillment. These are needs relating to personal growth and realization of man's full potential. Maslow's need hierarchy theory of motivation has been criticized on the ground that it leaves no room for difference between individuals. For one individual, self-actualization might be the dominant motive guiding a large part of his behavior, and for another individual working under essentially the same circumstances, it may not be so. This Maslow need hierarchy is yet to gain much of the research support. The theory of Douglas MacGregor. The late Douglas MacGregor has applied the fundamental content of the theory of Maslow to leadership and management theory. There are certain conventional assumptions relating to motivation of people in the organization that are widely accepted and are termed by MacGregor as Theory X. The important assumptions underlying this theory are as follows. The average man by nature is indolent and has an inherent dislike for work. He will not work if possible. Dislike for work implies that people require to be directed and controlled by management. It also implies that they must be persuaded, rewarded, punished and threatened with sanctions so that they put in sufficient efforts for accomplishing organizational objectives. Man is inherently resistant to change and passive to organizational needs. He lacks ambition, avoids responsibility and prefers to be led. These assumptions guide management behavior and thinking. Having established the inadequacy of Theory X, MacGregor suggested a different theory of managing people based on more adequate assumptions about human nature and motivation. He labeled that attitudinal pattern of managers as theory. The important assumption of Theory Y described by MacGregor are: man is not inherently passive or resistant to organizational needs. Incentive, threat, or external control is not the only means of motivating people to work for organizational objects. The motivation, the potential for development, the capacity for assuming responsibility, the readiness to direct behavior towards organizational objectives are all present in people. Under proper organizational conditions and methods of operation, man will exercise self-control towards achieving his own goals and those of the organization. Concept of leadership. There are a number of definitions of leadership propounded by visionaries working in different domains. Their sense of leadership can thus be demonstrated with some of the renowned definitions. Leadership, according to Alford and Beatty, is the ability to secure the desirable action from a group of followers voluntarily without the use of coercion. According to Chester I. Bernard, leadership refers to the quality of the behavior of the individual whereby they guide people on their activities in organized efforts. According to Terry, a leader shows the way by his own example. He is not a pusher, he pulls rather than pushes. According to Koost and O'Donnell, managerial leadership is the ability to exert interpersonal influence by means of communication towards the achievement of a goal. Nature, characteristic, and issues of leadership. Leadership involves a community of interest between the leader and his followers. In other words, the objectives of both the leader and his men are one and the same. The essential features of leadership are: leadership is a process of influence. Leadership implies that leaders can influence their followers or subordinates in addition to being able to give their followers or subordinates legitimate direction. Leadership is the function of stimulation. Leadership is the function of motivating people to strive willingly to attain organizational objectives. A leader ensures absolute justice. A leader must be objective and impartial. He should not follow unfair practices and must show fair play and absolute justice in all his decisions and actions. Leadership styles and patterns. Each type of action is related to the degree of authority used by the boss and to the degree of freedom available to his subordinates in reaching decisions. Leadership style refers to the behavior pattern adopted by a leader to influence the behavior of his subordinates for attaining the organizational goals. The selection of a leadership style will depend on the consideration of a number of factors. Leadership skill. The leader is expected to play many roles and therefore must be qualified to guide others to organizational achievement. In a broad way, the skills which are necessary for an industrial leader may be summarized under 4 heads. Human skill. A good leader is considerate towards his followers because his success largely depends on the cooperation of his followers. A successful leader possesses the human relation attitude. The human skill involves the following: empathy. A leader should be able to look at things objectively. Objectivity. A good leader is fair and objective in dealing with subordinates. Communication skill. A leader should have the ability to persuade, to inform, stimulate, direct and convince his subordinates. Teaching skill. A leader should have the ability to demonstrate how to accomplish a particular task. Social skill. A leader should understand his followers. He should be helpful, sympathetic and friendly. Conceptual skill. In the words of Chester Bernard, the essential aspect of the executive process is the sensing of the organization as a whole and the total situation relevant to it. Technical skill. A leader should have a thorough knowledge of and competence in the principle, procedures and operation of a job. Personal skill. The most important task of the leader is to get the best from others. Leadership and management. Management functions include planning, organizing, staffing, directing and controlling. In order to direct his subordinates, a manager must motivate, communicate, supervise, guide and lead them. Managing can be more effective if those who manage are also the leaders, because leadership can substantially influence the result. Let's understand the favorable result that would surely be produced if managers become good leaders too. It will result in elimination of uncertainties as to what should be done and would thus lead to coordination of individual efforts. He would motivate people and integrate individuals' needs with the needs of the organization. He would represent the group to the outside world and the outside world to the group. Leader would be looked upon by the group as a source of information and satisfaction. Trait theories. The trait theory of leadership is criticized mainly on account of the following inadequacies. Skills are sometimes mistaken for traits. No two lists agree about the essential characteristic and interpretations of different traits also differ. The theory fails to pinpoint the intensity and extent to which each of the agreed traits should be present in an individual. At different times and under different situations, leaders must display different leadership characteristics. Similarly, different functions like production, sales and finance require somewhat different leadership abilities. Researchers have shown that leadership should be looked beyond personal qualification and traits of the individuals. Style theories. The assumption behind style theories is that employees will work harder and therefore more effectively for managers who employ given styles of leadership than they will for managers who employ other styles. The style usually compared lie along authoritarian and democratic dimensions. The focus of power is the most important basic of differences among these styles. Summary. Now in the end, let us summarize what we have learned in this lecture. Motivation is at the heart of how innovative and productive things are done within work organization. Psychological disequilibria arouse behavior directed towards satisfying a specific incentive or goal thought to restore equilibrium. Content models of motivation envisage that motivation begins with individual needs. Motivation represents those psychological processes that cause the arousal, direction and persistence of voluntary action that are goal-oriented. Leadership involves a community of interest between the leader and his followers. In other words, the objectives of both the leader and its men are one and the same. If the leader strives for one purpose and his team work for some other purpose, then it is not a leadership.